On today's episode of the Biz Chat, I'm talking to Sujan Patel, who's going to teach us how to reverse engineer your competitors' content. Hey everyone, I am Kyle Racky, and today I'm pleased to have Sujan Patel on the show. Sujan is the author of 100 Days of Growth, which is a growth hacking book that sold over 40,000 copies, and he's also the co-founder of growth marketing agency Web Profits. And he's been doing digital marketing for a long time. He's worked with companies like Salesforce, Mint, Intuit, and many other Fortune 500 caliber companies. And his content's also been featured on various outlets like MSNBC, Inc., Forbes, Entrepreneur, and more. Very pleased to have you on the show, Sujan.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. Super pumped to chat about today's topic.
These are fun topics. I love talking content marketing. It's a passion of mine, and I know a lot of people who listen to this either create content or they know they should be doing it and sometimes struggle with, how do I actually pull it off? How do I have a blog that has a following? And how do I make content production part of my weekly schedule? So really excited to talk about this stuff with you. To kick it off, let's get started. You wrote a very cool post on your blog on sujanpatel.com, which was how to reverse engineer successful content marketing campaigns. Now, I'm a big fan of reverse engineering things. For those who don't know, a little hobby of mine sometimes is to take really famous songs and then deconstruct them and try to figure out, like, you know, the bass part and the drums and the guitar part. And it's just a fun way to sort of look at things, is take something that's awesome and, you know, figure out how they got to that. And you can do that with content. So I'd love for you to just kind of walk us through this scenario of, why do you want to reverse engineer a content campaign, and how do you start going about it?
Yeah, so great question. I think reverse engineering and doing your research on your competitors, the industry, before you jump into a campaign is very, very important. You ultimately need this information to create a proper strategy. The reason being is that most times you'll find your customers, the industry, you know, pretty much what you think is successful from surface level isn't. And what I mean by successful is it's not successfully driving leads, new business, top of the funnel growth, which is for the most part what content marketing should be doing. A lot of times there's a lot of vanity metrics, or it's driving traffic, or, you know, it looks good on the surface and you think, oh, my competitors are crushing it. Well, maybe they're just emailing their database and it's a good middle of the, you know, it's a good like nurture campaign, or like it's not good for top of the funnel. So, you know, when it comes down to reverse engineering, I look at like a couple areas. So I'm looking at, I'm looking at my competitors, my direct competitors, you know, people who are competing with my business. I'm looking at backing up a couple of steps and looking at the industry overall. So I'll give you an example. I did this for my startup Mailshake. So I've got Web Profits and I have Ramp Ventures. We own about 7 SaaS companies. And so, you know, over the last year, we've been building out new content marketing campaigns for each of the company. And I wrote this post actually because I was doing it for Mailshake, and I'm like, this is really interesting. I need to really dive in on and talk about this because I think it can help people. So, you know, we're a cold email like sales and outreach tool. So we tackle 2 audiences, small sales team and link building, content marketing guys, marketing people, folks, right? So I naturally looked at all my competitors, see what they were doing. I looked at what type of content, how frequently they're creating content, you know, how many shares, estimating, trying to get like a gauge on what they're ranking for, what organic traffic they're getting from using tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and seeing like, okay, what's their most linked to content, you know, and then trying to reverse engineer how they created it, what they did to promote it. But that part's easy. What I found is, well, frankly, there wasn't a lot of people doing awesome stuff. And the companies that were crushing it, like Yesware, the reason they were crushing it is because they've been doing it for like almost a decade. And it wasn't that their content was better. It wasn't that the content was like, or their strategy was really different. It was a lot. Again, this is my kind of take on this, is it was a lot to do with the fact that they just been doing it for, it was like 8 years.
Yeah.
So age is a big thing. So if I went in and said like, if I went in without doing that research and I just said, I'm going to create a content strategy like Yes, where I would not see the results of that. And so then I was like, let me
You
back
often
up.
find too that happens when a lot of articles that compete with you are the Incs, the Forbes, the Entrepreneur.com, and at least for us, a lot of the content that we write is around sales and entrepreneurship, and that kind of content appears on those sites, and it's really hard to compete with them from a search standpoint. The content's not usually even very good. Well, I shouldn't say it's not good. It's not very in depth. It's very short. So yeah, we face that all the time. Is like those guys just rank number one for pretty much every article because they're Forbes and Inc. and Entrepreneur.
Absolutely right. I think I write for Entrepreneur and Inc. and Forbes and whatnot, and I'll tell you that they have a cap on the word count they want. They want it to be good, like awareness, engagement, like really high level stuff. Not really high level, but the stuff that does the best is high level,
Yeah.
because that's their audience, right? So, but they have the domain authority. They like you can create a piece of crap article on Inc. and with a bit of promotion, actually get it to rank higher than the best article you would put on your own domain. So you're right. You have to discount those things, and those are not indicative of the quality you need to create. And so when that happens, I look at like what are the broader industry like? Okay, who's doing a good job targeting salespeople and marketers? And so I step back to like who's actually doing a good job targeting my audience. I actually came across your stuff too, so I'm pumped to be on your podcast. So anyways, like if you're targeting salespeople, I saw HubSpot absolutely crush it, and then that kind of fit into like they're the Inc bucket, can't really compete with their domain authority or their budget or whatever, and so I just like I got a gauge of who's doing it well in my target audience, and that helped me find out weaknesses and kind of speaking of weaknesses, when you're first starting off with like blank canvas, or you're maybe in the first 6 months, 12 months of your content marketing strategy, typically the focus should be on audience building, building traffic up, and building up the audience. But how you do that, I believe, is finding these gaps in information and filling those gaps. And it could be, answering specific questions or writing an article or creating a video based off a lot of core questions. So if you're targeting founders, go to Quora and go like just Google the word or search for the word founder, and you'll find a ton of related content. You can dive a lot into it, and you'll find pretty good answers. Well, that's great. It's a Quora answer, but you could probably create a blog post on that and really quickly monopolize on that industry, like really capitalize on that space by just not monopolize, capitalize on that space. By having a blog post and an article. And I guarantee you, an end user, if I'm searching for it, if you're searching for something, you'd rather read a blog post that is just by default going to be more robust than like a core answer. So, finding gaps is really, really important.
Quora is a tool that so many
hard.
people underutilize, right? It's
absolutely.
I find still people are like, Quora, really? And it's like, wow, that place is just a reservoir of blog post ideas, blog post answers, research that you can add to a blog post to fill it out more. Quora is it. Like, people should be checking it out.
Absolutely. And there's, Pinterest boards as well. If you're in the B2C space, it depends on who you're targeting, but like ultimately look for questions, even look at the bottom of Google for suggested. So like I start with Quora, and what I do is I do keyword research on and find, like, I use like keywordtool.io or pretty much trying to find, there's a bunch of tools I use, but trying to find like a whole laundry list of thousands of keywords. And then I go and do a ranking check to see where Quora is ranking. And so that shows me keywords and key phrases that Quora could be ranking for. Essentially, those are topics I know I want to write about, because if they're ranking, that means you could rank, and their potential, and then you cross-reference that with the search volume, and now you have, and you sort by highest volume to lowest, and now you have a hit list of like, people are asking for those questions, Quora is ranking for it, and there's volume, so you're going into a strategy with the tactic that is going to produce results, or it has predictable results. And I think a lot of people like, I want to write about this, and like if you're thinking like, okay, there's no Quora questions around my audience or my keywords or topic or industry, go talk to your customers or your email list and find out what their biggest problems are. Like when we onboard customers, and we do this for our clients as well, like especially for SaaS businesses and even the service business, like when you onboard a customer, I try to understand who they are, what they're trying to do, and what their problems are in their field. Like, so if I'm onboarding a salesperson for Mailshake, I want to get an understanding. The first 30 days for me, when I'm doing email onboarding and app onboarding, I'm trying to figure out what the hell they're trying to do. Not the outcome, not just the outcome they want with the product, but what is the big win in their career? What are they frustrated with? Because those are all things that that could be top of the funnel driving, right? Like those are probably things they're thinking about. And like, I'll give you an example. For our agency last year, we created a ton of content that solves this particular industry, like solve this particular problem, because writing content in the marketing space, super saturated. Everybody's creating really good stuff, and it's really hard to compete on writing about digital strategies and all this stuff. So I was like, well, let's go figure out what our problems are. So at the time we wrote this article, people were like, how the hell do I use Snapchat? So we wrote this extensive guide on Snapchat and specifically targeting our customers. So I was like, okay, look, you're the frame of mind is you're an executive at a company, or you're a marketer at a company, and you're like, or a founder and trying to do marketing, and like, how the heck do I use this thing? Does it matter? And we just kind of wrote about that. We wrote about customer advocacy, leveraging your, assets, and like audit, making an inventory of your assets, and that includes customers, and then how to do that, and then how to leverage that, right? So these are all things like when I've been a VP of marketing at companies before, and it's like these are the conversations I have in my day to day that I could leverage.
Yes, and I like that approach of not just going, let's write an article about Snapchat, which could appeal to anybody, right? Here's how you do a story. Here's how you add a filter. It's like, how do I solve the problem of my customers, which is all the kids are using Snapchat. It's a growing platform. I should be using it, but I don't use it, and I don't care. But I need to know for my work or to grow my business. And taking that kind of more specific angle, I think, is really cool. We kind of did the same thing to a certain degree with our customers, though. When I do customer development calls, I'll do a similar thing where I say, like, what's outside of our product, and any problems you have with it. Just what's your problems in your business? Like, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? And what we found was, even though our product is very geared towards closing deals, it's a proposal product, it's proposal software. What actually was keeping them up at night was lacking leads up at the top of the funnel. They're like, I don't know how to generate leads for my agency. That's a big problem for us. So our product can't solve that problem, but our content can help. And so that actually affected our strategy of creating more articles around generating leads for an agency, not just lead generation in general. Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because your customer and they have problems. Like every agency owner is like, how do I market myself? How do I get leads? Obviously, when they get there and you've educated them, it's a 1-2 punch. I know you guys because you've educated me, and now I'm like, well, I might as well use their service or product, right? And that reduces the friction and the barrier to entry, and they already have you at top of mind. So that's exactly the little things to think about when you're building and putting together a content strategy. And it really starts with doing your research and reverse engineering what has worked, filling these gaps of information that's out there, talking to your customers. And if you don't have any customers, and believe it or not, like that's okay. That's a lot of people don't have many customers or any customers. Talk to your audience, talk to your competitors. I actually just published this video today on customer development, right? Like, this is what I did for my product when we were building it, is that I was talking to competitors' customers, and I looked at like G2 Crowd, Capterra, all these places where people left reviews, the ones that were kind of mediocre to bad. I knew those guys would jump on the phone and quickly, easily tell me all the crap they had wrong with their experience, right? So you can do the same thing and talk to those guys about what's their problems. So like, I don't use that I don't have any customers as an excuse. You could take from your competitors' customers and easily leverage that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's easy.
That's a big
takeaway.
It's
not easy. It's hard work. Okay. But this is the stuff I think you should do before you write a single word, right? Like, I'll give you an example. When we wrote my ebook and how we were able to sell 40,000 copies. It's actually up to like 45,000 now, which is, it's just awesome. 2 years later, still kind of, we're getting like 1,000 sales or like somewhere in there, like a month. It's
Wow.
just nuts how much, how much traction it's continuing to get. It's that in 2015, when we came up, my co-author and I came up with the topic, we saw growth hacking as a quickly rising industry term, and I looked at like digital marketing and compared it to digital marketing. And I remember when it was internet marketing, online marketing, and SEO, inbound marketing, all these buzzwords, and digital marketing kind of came up.
Hmm.
Same with content marketing, overtook inbound marketing. I saw growth hacking in 2014 when I was doing the research as this quickly rising star. So I was like, okay, how do we let's go create a topic on this. At the same time, Ryan Holiday wrote a book. There was a couple other books that were like, you know, not self-published, but doing, they're in the mainstream. So I'm like, okay, we know there's a potential. I'm going to make a bet that there's a potential market here.
Hmm.
And so everybody talked about the strategy again at the time. It's better now, but everyone talked about the strategy, the high level. They used like Airbnb, Dropbox examples, well, and Hotmail. I'm like, well, that's kind of hard to do 10 years later,
Hmm.
and it's like common sense now. So I was like, let's talk about very tactical. So I felt there was a gap in knowledge on growth hacking in, okay, I know the term, I know I'm really excited about but what the hell do I do? So my book is like 100 tactics, and it's like
Hmm.
flip through it, go through it. I'm not going to tell you which ones to do. You can learn the strategy on like the framework and mindset around it on your own. I'm just going to share with you 100 different ideas, and you can use it to go back to and reference. And so again, it filled the content gap, and we pre-sold it too, meaning like, and that's another big part. Which is when you're doing content strategy or you're coming up with an article, make sure you know how to promote it and ways you think you're going or ways you're going to be able to promote it. And if you can't come up with 3 to 5 like solid ideas,
Hmm.
that's a bad idea. You don't have the ability to promote that article. It doesn't
Hmm.
have enough enough meat to promote.
I just love that you took that approach to growth hacking because it's almost frustrating for a lot of people. I find people are just like hungry for tactics, and even though we know tactics are you need a strategy behind them, people still want tactics. Tactics sell. Like
Yeah,
people are interested in it because you can read the theory all you want of like the growth hacker mindset and how to approach testing and velocity of your tests and how long to measure them and all that stuff. We at least anybody who reads into growth hacking knows all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, I want to buy this book because it's just kind of cool that you identified that gap of like people really do still want tactics because all the strategy stuff is out there and you gave it to them. Well, I love
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, and like so, like now, fast forward 2 years later, we've got my partner and I launched another book, or another book called The Growth Manifesto, and I'll give you guys everyone a coupon code or like a way to get it for cheap at
Awesome.
the end. Um, this is kind of a follow up to the first one. So that was like tactical, 100 different tactics, whatever. Now there's more strategy in here. We define what a funnel looks like. We define like how to think through it. There's a bit of there's quite a bit of mindset, but there's still like action. Now it's not tactical, it's actionable stuff in each part of the funnel with examples and stuff like that. So instead of being tactical, because again, tactics over the last few years have been played out.
Hmm.
Tactics never have like, you never win on a tactic. You may win that one little day or the week or the month, but you don't build a big business off a tactic.
Yeah.
So we've focused on actionable strategies. So we kind of took a step back and still made it actionable and realistic, right? So no like BS Airbnb examples like that. Just that that always frustrates me because, well, first of all, the people are talking about something they did in 2008, 2009. So that's like it's 2017. It's a long time from now,
Hmm.
or a long time ago. And you're talking about like what a $1 billion company did. Sure, if I have $1 billion, or like if I'm doing the same thing and the same resources, I probably could do the same thing. But like we're not there.
Yeah.
It's too far away from reality.
Well, and a lot of it is just timing. Like once somebody's uncovered the growth hack and executed it, a lot of times they've burned it through it. That doesn't work anymore. Like because we did it and everybody knows about it, now we're all wise to their game, and now that growth tactic just doesn't work the same way.
Exactly. And one of the things, like I'll give you like in my career, kind of my highlight, the things I've done that were like the best, which is actually leveraging customers and talking to customers, treating, first of all, showing empathy and treating them like real human beings, which is very rare in the software space. Well, you'd be surprised. But if you show empathy and show that you care, that there's a relationship that can form. And one of the things I do for building, content, going back to content strategy, is again, I talk to my customers and like, you can only scale that so much as one person, as a CEO or whatnot, but you can get your customer support and salespeople are always talking to customers. So go ping them to figure out what the heck they're talking to them about, right? Like I guarantee you, if you talk to your salesperson, you're going to know the friction points that, that the customers have told them about why they haven't signed up, what's bothering them, customer support, like simple things that have been really helpful in terms of content marketing and keeping customers longer. Is your support team in your email signature. You can use, like, have them send an article that is relevant to that article, to that conversation. So super easy, right? I give my support team a list of articles and I categorize it. Okay, so if they're talking, we're an email outreach tool, so we have like deliverability problem. Here's 3 articles. We have, oh, can you review our campaign? Here's 3 articles, and it's all about writing and all this other stuff. So we have content that can solve problems, and it's like this is the stuff that we include at the very end. And if we don't have content that can solve a keyword or a problem, we'll go create it. That's my job, right? So same thing with sales. It's like, hey, like at the best way I found for a salesperson to keep following up on a prospect is follow up by adding more value. Like, hey, I was thinking of you the other day, and I was, was meeting with my marketing team about our latest, a few pieces of content we created. I was thinking of you. Here's an article that I think will help you based off our last conversation. That's way better than, hey, I just wanted to follow up where my proposal is. Where you at with my proposal? Like, you give them something, and then P.S. Any progress on the proposal, right? So, way better to lead with value. And again, as a marketer or content marketing person, you probably already have this content ready. You just need to get it to the sales and support team, the guys on the front lines.
Absolutely, that's great. Now, one question I wanted to ask you with regards to reverse engineering a content campaign was with regards to distribution. So you talked a little bit about promoting and how you want to have some tactics lined up for how you promote your content. Is there any way to reverse engineer what your competitors did to promote their content? Is there any way to kind of look at and go, oh, here's how they got, this this huge piece of, this huge blog article. This is why it blew up and got so much, shares and traffic and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So first and foremost, you want to check something like BuzzSumo and Ahrefs for a specific article or any backlink tool, and figure out what sites are linking to them. And let's say that you wrote an ebook and it's on Product Hunt. It's been it's linked to some other whatever like that. Then you have a strategy. Let's say you want to look, like, if you look at the BuzzSumo, you can find who shared that article, and you can see, like, were there any influencers who shared it, and then like cross-reference that with, like, were the influencers mentioned in the article? Because usually an influencer mentioned, you make them look good, they're going to share your stuff. This is probably already mostly played out unless you go get them involved early on and build a relationship with them. So you're trying to find out what are like the 1 or 2 like anchor things they've done. Do they have an email list, right? Sign up for the email list, and are they sending content to their email list? If yes, you can assume they sent that article, and and then you can assume that you can figure out, like, usually people will lead with, especially in the marketing space and agency space, like, oh, join our 50,000 post email list. You can probably dilute that 25%, and that's probably what the real list that they have is. And so it's like, oh, if I'm launching a piece of content and I have a 50,000 person email list, well, is that why it's successful? So I'm just trying to find out, like, the 3 to 5 things that they did that did it. And again, like, is it their brand? Look at the brand, and look also at how long they've been creating content, and like see if any of their content is actually ranking. So like use tools like SEMrush and look at their domain to see if they're getting any traffic to their content. And if they are, that might not be the way they promoted it, but that might be the reason for its success and the reason it looks like it's getting a lot of traffic. So maybe their strategy, or likely the strategy, was they promoted it, they built a lot of links, and the sole purpose was to rank on Google, so as to get organic traffic. And that's now, maybe it's been 6 months, and that's what's probably showing as the output. But all you have to do is do like 5 minutes of research on each thing. BuzzSumo for social shares and even links, Ahrefs for backlinks, SEMrush to check the domain, and just start doing Google searches, right? Like look at their old content, check the email list, and that's like the 5-minute basics anybody can do.
That's awesome. That's really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Sujan, it's been fun talking about this. I could talk about it all day. Some huge takeaways and insights there that people should take note of. We're going to have these in the article so that people can review what you taught us. Thank you so much for your time being on the show. And where would you like to send people to check out your stuff?
Yeah, best place to go to find me and my content is my website, sujanpatel.com. And definitely check out our ebook. You can get it for $1. I think it's about $30 normally. Just go to growthmanifesto.com and use the code SujanTalks, one word, and you can get it for $1. Why $1? I actually don't want anyone's money. I don't really care for that. But if you statistically, and studies have shown that if you put money into content, and you have a higher chance of actually consuming the content. So I want you to give me $1. So that you will actually take action on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to value it.
Exactly.
Totally.
And $1 is cheap. Maybe you should pay retail.
$1 is cheap. It's very generous. Thank you so much for that, Sujan. People should check that out. That's growthmanifesto.com.
That's right.
And links also will be in the show notes. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you.